So they're not going to fire Mike Tomlin. Aaron's, of course, going to always defend him. They have no young quarterback for the future. It's one of the oldest rosters in the league. The money's mostly spent on defense. Pittsburgh is stuck in a mediocrity loop. And they're never terrible, but exceedingly average. And they've become so consumed with stability, loyalty. Hey, at least we're not Cleveland. Yeah, but either are the Chiefs, the Rams, or the Niners, and they take swings. I mean, a prime example of the Steelers, they go get DK Metcalf, and yet the Steelers are last in the NFL with Aaron Rodgers in air yards per attempt. So they buy a sports car and don't know how to drive it. And it's not just about not winning a playoff game for 9 years. I went and looked at Mike Tomlin's last 13 playoff games. There's 6 blowout losses. In fact, in their last 7 playoff games, they have not led for a single snap in the second half in any of them. The games aren't that competitive. You thought last night was competitive, start of the fourth. You knew who the better team was. So there's an old saying about, you can't save your way to being wealthy, just being content. And that's how I feel about the Steelers. They want to be, they're content, which to me just feels like a weighted blanket. I just don't get it. You got to take swings, increase risk. We're going into another season. Aaron will take off. They won't have any urgency at quarterback. And it's actually the easy way out in life to not offend anybody and be loyal to all your employees. That is the easy way out in life. It's hard to fire people. And I'm not insisting that you should fire Tomlin. It's not what I'm saying. He'd get a TV job or another job in 1 second. He's more than competent. Stop spending money on defense, okay? Last night, it's like I know in Pittsburgh, and I get it. It's an old school, proud town that putting fries on a sandwich is cool. But the rest of the country took the fries, moved them on a plate, put Parmesan cheese and truffle salt on them. That's what the rest of us do.
All right. Interesting. Okay, so let's be clear. This was an unequivocally poor performance from the Pittsburgh Steelers. The issue isn't merely that they lost. It's that the offense appeared utterly incapable from the opening whistle, while the defense, despite doing its part, was ultimately hung out to dry. A final score of 36 is deceptively stark, considering how the contest actually progressed. Frankly, here's the reality. Even if you had inserted Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, or Joe Burrow into that Steelers lineup, would it have mattered? Perhaps if one of them went supernova for, say, 100-plus rushing yards, but even that feels like a stretch. There was simply no avenue for success. The ground game was non-existent. Receivers couldn't separate. On the rare occasion a pass was delivered accurately, it was dropped. Meanwhile, the quarterback was under constant duress. It was, in a word, a brutal exhibition. And full credit is due, the Houston Texans' defense is phenomenal. They harassed the quarterback all day and have made life miserable for every opponent they've faced this season. That's precisely why I was keen to observe Aaron Rodgers' mental approach, to see how he might dissect such a unit. But there were no answers to be found. None whatsoever. Furthermore, when your scheme fails, you rely on players to create something individually. That didn't happen either. The situation was epitomized by their third down futility. The average distance to gain was over 11 yards. Over. It was unsustainable. There was a complete absence of explosive plays. This brings us to a larger, more persistent truth. This franchise has been stagnant for a decade. To argue that significant alterations aren't necessary is frankly delusional. This isn't necessarily a call to immediately dismiss Mike Tomlin. It's broader than that. The organization must adopt a more aggressive posture. Somehow, somewhere. They must innovate. This is the core dilemma with the Tomlin era. I've expressed this previously. An innovative, offensive-minded coach can sometimes salvage a situation, believing, I can work with a Daniel Jones or a Sam Darnold. However, consider the Seattle Seahawks. They have a defensive head coach, yet the front office possessed the clarity and conviction to state, we don't believe Darnold is merely a byproduct of his previous environment. We can win with him. Now they sit atop the NFL, secured a first-round bye, and have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, with Darnold playing exceptionally well. Thus, it's not solely about hiring an offensive guru. Seattle's offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, isn't some long-tenured wizard. He's part of a coherent organizational strategy. They understood how to construct a modern offense from the ground up. This is the fundamental failure in Pittsburgh. You cannot simply deflect by saying, they win just enough to miss top draft picks, or they tried drafting a quarterback and missed. Other teams face identical constraints. The Seahawks navigated similar quarterback purgatory. The Indianapolis Colts, whose season derailed due to injury, previously engineered a competent offensive structure. Make no mistake, had Daniel Jones remained healthy, that Giants team was playoff-bound. They would have unequivocally been superior to these Steelers. This inevitably forces the question, what must the Steelers do to genuinely progress? Look at Denver. They were adrift. They hired Sean Payton, who unceremoniously moved on from Russell Wilson, drafted Bo Nix, and now they are the NFC's top seed. Sometimes you must take a monumental swing. Trade up in the draft, make a bold move, be proactive, take that risk. Select a quarterback like Malik Willis or Mac Jones in the draft, someone with clear traits to develop. The point isn't about a guaranteed success. It's about the decisiveness of the action itself. And let's be honest, acquiring veterans like Russell Wilson or Justin Fields didn't constitute such a swing. There was no overwhelming evidence they would transform the franchise. Even in a scenario where Wilson could have succeeded, it would have required an elite defense, a true shutdown unit like Houston possessed this year. That defense didn't exist in Pittsburgh. They couldn't contain Derrick Henry. They couldn't stop Lamar Jackson, whom the Kansas City Chiefs limited to 10 points in an AFC Championship game just a year prior. Imagine pairing a historically great defense with a seasoned veteran like Wilson. You could plausibly win games, but that alignment never materialized. In that context, Mike Tomlin arguably warrants greater scrutiny. The requirement was a championship-caliber defense to compensate for offensive limitations. Had they built that Texans-level defense, playoff victories would have followed. They did not. I won't claim to have the perfect blueprint, but the notion that the Steelers can indefinitely persist with the same approach is folly. Consider Philadelphia. There is speculation about the future of Nick Sirianni, a coach who recently won a Super Bowl. They will likely dismiss their offensive coordinator. They make assertive, often ruthless, decisions. Consequently, they have won 2 Super Bowls in 8 years with 2 distinct coaching staffs, 2 different rosters, and 2 different quarterbacks. They reached the Super Bowl in 2022, regressed in 2023, made sweeping changes, were aggressive in personnel moves, won it all in 2024, stepped back again in 2025, and you can be certain further changes are imminent. That is the operational model. The instant they perceive Jalen Hurts or a coach is not meeting the standard, they pivot. They identify an upgrade and rebuild accordingly. You must be aggressive. The Steelers are definitively not that. And if the organizational philosophy remains rooted in a defensive identity, then the mandate is to construct an utterly suffocating, historically dominant defense, one that renders scoring nearly impossible. This isn't to say Pittsburgh's defense was poor this season. It wasn't. But in critical moments against elite opponents, it wasn't the game-wrecking force required. That is exactly what the Texans' defense provided this year. I am intrigued to see their off-season approach. I don't believe the solution is as simplistic as firing Mike Tomlin. But unequivocally, something must change. A fundamental shift is necessary. Those are my perspectives. I am eager to hear yours. What is your assessment of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Is it time to part ways with Mike Tomlin? Do you believe he is the primary obstacle to progress? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. I read every single comment. Whether you concur or vehemently disagree, let's engage in discussion. Let's debate. Ultimately, let's enjoy the conversation. If you appreciate this dialogue, please consider subscribing. We are cultivating a fantastic community here, and I would be thrilled to have you join it. My goal is to build something that fosters genuine connection and shared excitement. I believe we are well on our path. Also, please don't forget to like this video. It significantly boosts its visibility within the platform's algorithm. Thank you sincerely for your time. I'll see you next time.